What's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike. And in a year where we've seen a lot of notable retirements, uh, Kobe Bryant, who announced his retirement, I think it was in late November of last year. So we already knew that he was going to retire at year's end. And recently, we had the retirement of Tim Duncan. Another retirement of a notable player has just occurred. That of a longtime veteran Amar'e Stoudemire. Now, this one, uh, um, unless you were a fan of basketball in the early to mid 2000s, Amar'e Stoudemire may not pop into your head as one of the elite players in the NBA. He's been sort of on the radar, so to speak, I'd say the last 4 years or so, as far as NBA is concerned. He finished his career as pretty much, I guess, more of a bench player, a role player with the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks. But there was a time when Amar'e Stoudemire was one of the premier post players in the NBA. But anyway, Amar'e Stoudemire signed a contract with the New York Knicks and effectively retired. I believe the same day he wanted to retire as a New York Knick. And a little bit interesting to me that he wanted to retire as a Knick because I guess it's just that he liked the atmosphere of New York. I mean, I think, in my opinion, he had his best years as a Phoenix Sun, but for whatever reason, he loved the New York Knicks, and they allowed him to retire as a Knick, and that's good. My impression of Amar'e Stoudemire, as far as his career, is, and this is just me, as good as his career was, it was good. I thought it could have been more, but I really couldn't. I can't say that it's anything that he could have done more. The only thing I ever was really critical of Amar'e, I remember Charles Barkley used to kind of criticize him about this as well. I just wish that he had hit the boards better. I think his career, I don't think he's ever had a season averaging 10 rebounds a game. And this is a guy who sometimes played the center position as well as the power forward position, especially with the Phoenix Suns. I think he also played the center position with the Knicks too. He never, I think for his career, his averages were about 19 points and nearly 8 rebounds per game. It's kind of, those averages are pretty on par with like a Kevin McHale, but McHale has the excuse of, at least the excuse of the first 5 years of his career, 5 to 6 years of his career, he was coming off the bench, which cut into his minutes, which cut into his numbers. So, I think his real numbers were something like maybe, closer to 10 rebounds a game once he became a starter. But anyway, I just wish that Mario was a better rebounder. But, like I said, that was not his fault. It was just injuries took a toll on him toward the latter part of his career, especially with his knees. But I remember he came to NBA in 2002. He was sort of like the LeBron, but not quite nearly the same fanfare as LeBron a year later. But he was a prep to pro player. I mean, he came from high school to the NBA. He had a really interesting background. Drafted by the Phoenix Suns. I believe he was the Rookie of the Year. At the time, if I remember something correctly, he set the record for most points scored by, what was it, a high schooler? Or a guy who came from high school to the NBA, like their first year, not rookie. If you get what I'm saying, he set a scoring record, individual game scoring record for a player who came from high school to the NBA their first year. But I think the record was surpassed the very next year by LeBron James. And, he had some great seasons with the Phoenix Suns, especially after Marbury left town and Phoenix acquired Steve Nash. Because I remember for quite some years, Phoenix was like the Golden State. Well, they weren't quite as good as Golden State. I won't say that. But they were something like that. Like they had Steve Nash. If I remember correctly, those mid-2000 Phoenix Suns teams had Steve Nash and Amar'e Stoudemire and a prime Sean Marion and Leandro Barbosa when he was considered the fastest player in the NBA. Because he was even better back then. But those mid-2000 teams, Steve Nash and Amar'e Stoudemire were like considered like the new Stockton and Malone. And one of those games, around 2005 or so, I remember Amar'e put in 50 points against the Portland Trailblazers. I remember that game. And then the injuries started taking their toll on Amar'e Stoudemire. I think he had microfracture surgery sometime around 2005 or 2006. I also remember a playoff series that he had against the San Antonio Spurs where he averaged like 38, 39 points or some shit like that. I thought we remember Amar'e having a 50-point game in the playoffs too, as well. But anyway, eventually the Suns started faltering, and Amar'e was a free agent in 2010. He signed a big contract along with Carmelo Anthony in 2010 New York Knicks, and they had some lofty expectations that weren't quite ever met. And then eventually Amar'e's physical skills began to really decline after 2011, I say. And he never was able to regain the same form, and he played with various different teams. After the New York Knicks, after that tenure, he played with the Miami Heat and then I think the Dallas Mavericks. But from what I read, that one of the reasons why Amar'e has chosen to retire at age 33 is because he wanted to play at a certain level, and if he couldn't play at that particular level, he didn't want to play anymore. So I guess that's something similar to Tracy McGrady. Like, if you can't play the game at a certain level, then why keep playing? So Amar'e Stoudemire retires at the age of 33 after 14 seasons. He was a 6-time NBA All-Star. He was on the All-NBA first team in 2007. 4 times he was on the All-NBA second team. As I said before, he was the 2002-2003 NBA Rookie of the Year. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, in my opinion, no. Well, also I see that he was on that 2004 Athens team that only won the bronze in the Olympic Games, which was very shocking for American basketball. That was horrible, guys. Like, that's the year that, we should have been ashamed of ourselves for only winning the goddamn bronze. Oh, man, we're America. No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, though, man. At least the argument with a guy like Grant Hill is that for a time, let's say 1995 to 2000, Grant Hill was arguably the best small forward in the game, because Grant was playing in his prime at that particular time. Scottie Pippen, after 1995, began a slow and gradual but sure decline as a player. And overall, I think you can say that Grant Hill was the best small forward, and some people would even argue maybe the best all-around player in the NBA. I remember that kind of controversial Slam magazine poster that came out in 1997 with Grant Hill on the cover saying I think it said something like Grant Hill, just like Mike, only better, and that pissed a lot of people off, including me. But Grant had that adversity where he got injured constantly, and 99% of people would have gave up, and after a while, after coming back, what 3 or 4 different times. One time nearly dying of a staph infection. Had he retired, nobody would have called him a quitter. But he was able to come back and regain his health considerably, and he had a very good career afterward, playing at a decent level. Never the same guy anymore, but he had moments where he could still play at a pretty decent level. And also, at least with Grant Hill, he had that great NBA career coupled with, added with his collegiate career with Duke. So that's why I think that Grant Hill's probably going to get into the Hall of Fame on the strength of both his collegiate and pro years, especially the first 6 years of his career. Amar'e, I just don't think he did enough. The accolades just aren't enough. Because there's no way someone can make the argument to me that you could put Amar'e Stoudemire into the Hall of Fame, but yet you won't put in Larry Nance or I don't even think Sean Kemp's in the Hall of Fame. So if those guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, then how can you put Amar'e in? I'm sorry. That's just me. And somebody can say, well, Kemp never averaged 25, 26 points a game. Well, Sean Kemp was playing on teams with multiple scorers, too. Sean Kemp was playing on teams with a guy like Gary Payton and Detlef Schrempf and Sam Perkins. He was playing on teams with people who can actually score the basketball. But anyway, that's my opinion. Tell me what you guys think.